So whom do we have next, Martin?
Yeah, sorry for delay. Some organization issues. The next speaker, the next keynote is from David Pistoni. He is the CEO and co-founder from Zeleros Hyperloop, and he will speak about the scalable Hyperloop system in Europe. Warmly welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today, physically, after almost 2 years of online meetings, online events. So it's really important also to be together as an ecosystem if we want to build something as big as Hyperloop. So thank you, Martin and team, for this initiative. In this keynote, we want to share about the current Hyperloop context, the challenge we are still facing, and how Zeleros is working to solve these challenges. First of all, we know that Hyperloop is a 200-year-old idea, and everything started again with the Hyperloop Alpha document. We noticed that today this is possible, and in the first phase between 2013 and 2018, most of the main companies working today in Hyperloop were created. We had also the first technology developments, and in the next phase between 2018 and 2020, we had important milestones like an agreement between the main Hyperloop European Hyperloop companies, and also an agreement between the European member states to approve the support for Hyperloop. Also, Shift2Rail taking the lead of this development to boost the development in Europe. Then, from 2020, we had also other key milestones, like the creation of the technical committee at the European level in the Zenelec framework, or the support from the DG Mood, including Hyperloop in their strategy. In parallel to these institutional and strategical milestones, we also had important technology developments, test tracks, prototypes, and in the following years, we will have longer test tracks in different countries, like United States, Spain, the Netherlands, France, Switzerland, Poland. So in the following years, we will have even more important milestones. Hyperloop is becoming one of the key technologies for our future and our society. Some examples are the World Economic Forum defining Hyperloop as one of the markets of tomorrow that can transform our economies, empowering and protecting people. Also, Hyperloop is completely aligned with the next generation European strategy. So this is also an opportunity to boost our development and recover from these years that we were suffering. It's important to be aligned and to push together for this strategy. And of course, it's really positive to have Hyperloop inside of this plan. Also, it's relevant to say that in the United States, Hyperloop was included as an eligible infrastructure in the $1 trillion bill plan. So these are some of the examples of Hyperloop today. Hyperloop is a new means of transportation that will complement the current transportation systems. So it's important to understand and to analyze the interaction between Hyperloop and the other means of transportation. And it's also important to take into account the international policies that, for example, we are having in France, Germany, or Spain, trying to reduce the short-haul aviation. So this is, of course, an opportunity for the railway sector, but it's also an opportunity for Hyperloop to cover these distances in an efficient way. This is our vision of how Europe could be connected in the future. Of course, this is not going to happen in 1 year or 5 years. It needs time. It will start with specific routes, and then we will extend the network. But the important side is this is an opportunity of 300 million passengers per year, more than 5 million tons of cargo per year, and avoiding more than 1 billion CO2 annually. But to have something like this being a reality, we need something important that's called standards. Good news, this is already working. The technical committee of Hyperloop Systems is already working in Europe. It's led by Spain and the Netherlands, and it's directly connected with Shift2Rail at the European Commission. So we are not talking only about standards, but also about the future regulations we will need to operate the Hyperloop. It's important to find common path, common decisions to define how we want to have Hyperloop in Europe. And this is only the beginning, but it's as important as the technology development itself. We had many great milestones in the last years, but at the same time, we are closer and closer to take a Hyperloop to come back to Valencia from Frankfurt. But at the same time, we need to solve some challenges that are still ongoing, and we have some of them here. First, safety and certification. We need a safe technology, we need a safe operation of this technology, and we need a clear certification path to guarantee this safety for passengers and cargo. We need also to be scalable. So it's not only about being the faster one or being really efficient, it's also to be economically feasible. So we need to take into account the CapEx, the OpEx. There is a masterclass later also about that. And this is a key element for big projects like the Hyperloop lines. Also, we had to guarantee interoperability and intermodality. That's why standards are a key element, and we need to find a collaborative roadmap between the different Hyperloop players and industries and institutions. And having to account also not only Hyperloop, but the rest of means of transportations. So we need to understand how Hyperloop is going to be integrated with the rest of mobility systems. And finally, social awareness. We need to spread the Hyperloop potential. We need to familiarize the concept to the society. So this is also a really important point. So how are we working to overcome these challenges in Zeleros? First of all, as a company, we are based in Spain. We are a European company. We have a unique vision of Hyperloop, combining the best of the plane and the airplane, trying to reduce the infrastructure cost as much as possible, and operating using commercial systems, if it's possible, in the different technologies that we are using. We are 42 people today, expecting to be 50 in the following months, and we have an ecosystem of more of 150 people working to make Hyperloop a reality. We had also more than 10 million euros investment, and we have already 6 prototypes in operation. We are combining different technologies: levitation, linear motor, and aerodynamic propulsion. In this way, we are trying to include most part of the technology in the vehicle instead of the infrastructure. First, with the linear motor, we propel the vehicle, reducing the energy consumption we need from the vehicle. We are propelling the vehicle from the infrastructure with this technology. We also have the magnetic levitation system to avoid the friction with the rails and at the same time guiding the vehicle. And also we have the propulsion system on board. It's similar to an electric aircraft. That is basically allowing us to use also a bit higher pressures and allow us to have an autonomous vehicle propelling itself and not depending on the infrastructure. Thanks to the combination of these technologies, we can have an optimal trip with Hyperloop, and we will be ready to connect different cities around the world. As an example of the benefits, we can reduce infrastructure costs being in the range of the high-speed train instead of the maglev technology. And this is really important because it is basically around the 95% of the overall cost of this kind of projects. Also, we are operating at commercial aviation pressures, so we can reduce the complexity and the cost of this technology. And we can also be faster in order to reach the certification, as we could use current aviation standards for some of these technologies, avoiding the space conditions. So basically, we have a scalable technology, we have a straight certification path, and this combination of technologies, we find this is the optimal way to create the Hyperloop, and we are validating and optimizing this approach. Regarding our roadmap, we divided our development in 3 phases. We are finishing the first one. This is basically validating our subsystems using prototypes and optimizing our technology. Then we will integrate these technologies in a unique vehicle, and we will run the vehicle in a test track of more than 3 kilometers. And finally, with this information, we will be ready to implement the commercial prototype, always aligned with the regulations and the standards process that is already ongoing. We also think that for the longer test track, more than 20 kilometers to certify the technology, this should be a common test track in Europe, combining our efforts. Today is a perfect example of, we have different Hyperloop developers here. We are communicating with each other. We are cooperating at the standard level. So this will be a really important milestone to combine forces to create this big European test track. Regarding the Zeleros ecosystem, we know that this is a big project. We can't do it alone, and we are always looking for the best partners, allies to work together and create this new mean of transportation. As an example, we have 62 people working full-time on the project, combining the Zeleros and the Capgemini side. And we have people, we have incredible people coming from different industries, technology experts, business experts, and also combining this team with our collaborators coming from different companies, different research centers, creating a big ecosystem that allow us to cover all the areas that we need for this development. We also have institutional support at regional, national, and international level. We have different private investors coming from different countries, different backgrounds, and this is the perfect example of how Hyperloop can be developed, not only by one company or different Hyperloop companies, but also involving the industry, involving the institutions. That's the only way to create something as big as Hyperloop. As an example of some of our partners, collaborators, or investors, we have Airbus as leading aviation and aerospace company, ArcelorMittal as the world steel leader, also Capgemini as world leader in engineering services, or InnoEnergy as one of the catalyzers of the energy strategy in Europe, and also with a big experience in big projects like the European Battery Alliance. And in the last months, we had 2 new investments and technology collaborators, CAF as an industrial and international expert in the railway sector, and Acciona as an infrastructures expert with international experience as well in this kind of projects. Also, as an example of other kind of projects we are doing in Zeleros, we are taking advantage of the Hyperloop technologies. We saw something similar in the last presentation, to apply this technology in other industries. As an example, the SELF project allows us to move cargo inside ports and airports using electric technology. We have European funding for our pilot that we will build next year in the Valencia port. And this is a perfect example of how the Hyperloop development can also help us to develop these kind of technologies. And finally, and related with the 4th challenge we saw, the social awareness, we will be in the biggest event in the world, the Dubai Expo, and we will be really happy to welcome there and to meet and show you our model, our prototype. Of course, you are invited to visit us at the Spanish pavilion at this big event. And finally, the conclusions of this keynote. We want to show just 5 points. First one is Hyperloop as a new transport solution with the optimal range between the 400 and 5,500 kilometers, complementing the current transportation systems. Also, the relevance of including the propulsion inside of the vehicle, so we can reduce the complexity and the cost of the infrastructure. We can also use higher pressures to avoid the challenge of the space conditions, keeping aviation standards and accelerating the certification path. And it's also totally key, the standardization, and to be flexible, to collaborate, and to find a common solution for Hyperloop in Europe. Finally, it's completely relevant as well to demonstrate the technologies to take our decision based on operational demonstrators. And in the following years, the test tracks that are being now developed in different parts of the world are going to be completely key to take the right decisions. So we will be happy to discuss more about these topics later. We are always open to include more partners in our European program. And we are really happy to be here with all the industries and Hyperloop players that are today with us. Enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Many, many thanks for your keynote, David Pistoni, CEO and co-founder from Zeleros.